What if I told you the future King of England once threw himself at his mother's feet, begging to marry the woman he loved, and she said no? Dramatic pause. This is the untold story of how the most powerful family in Britain destroyed their own son's happiness and changed the course of history forever. It's 1973. Charles is 25, heir to the British throne, and completely head over heels for a woman named Camilla Shand. Not some fairy tale princess, just a regular girl from the countryside who makes him laugh like no one else ever has. But here's where it gets wild. Charles actually tried to marry her from day one. This wasn't some backup plan. This wasn't settling. This was true love, and everyone knew it. Scene: Buckingham Palace, private drawing room, 1973. Queen Elizabeth II looked up from her papers, already sensing the storm brewing in her eldest son's eyes. "It's about Camilla, isn't it?" Charles stepped forward, his voice shaking with emotion. "I want to marry her. I need to marry her. She's everything to me." The Queen's expression didn't change. Cold, calculated, royal. "Charles, darling, you know that's impossible. Why?" His voice cracked like a teenager's. "Because she's not a virgin? Because she doesn't have a title? Because she actually has a personality?" Silence stretched between them like a chasm. "Because," the Queen said slowly, "she is not suitable to be Queen of England." But here's what really happened behind those palace walls. Charles didn't just ask once. According to royal insiders, he pleaded. He made his case over and over again. He brought up how happy she made him, how she understood the pressures of royal life, how she could handle the spotlight. The palace machinery had other plans. See, Camilla had a past. She'd been involved with other men. In the 1970s, that was royal kryptonite. The monarchy needed a pure image, someone who looked like a fairy tale princess, not someone who looked like, well, a real person. Scene: Royal Navy deployment, 1973. While Charles was away on naval duty, conveniently stationed thousands of miles from London, Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles. Charles found out through a telegram. A telegram. Imagine getting your heart ripped out via 1970s Twitter. "I felt like I was dying," Charles later confided to friends. "Like someone had taken my soul and just crushed it." But here's the kicker. Some royal biographers believe the palace orchestrated the whole thing. They wanted Camilla married off to someone else, so Charles would have no choice but to move on. Enter Diana Spencer, 19 years old, beautiful, shy, most importantly, single and from an aristocratic family. Scene: Balmoral Castle, 1980. "She's perfect, Charles," his mother said, watching Diana play with the younger royals. "Young, pure, photogenic. The people will love her." Charles stared across the lawn at Diana, but his heart was somewhere else entirely. "But I don't love her." "You'll learn to." 5 words that doomed 3 lives forever. July 29, 1981. St. Paul's Cathedral. 750 million people watching worldwide. Diana looked like a princess from a storybook. Charles looked like a man walking to his execution. But guess who was in the audience? Camilla. She sat there, watching the man she loved marry someone else, knowing that she could have been the one in white if the world had been different. "I wanted to disappear into the floor," Camilla later told friends. Watching him say those vows, it was torture. What happened next shocked the world, but shouldn't have surprised anyone. Charles and Diana's marriage was a disaster from day one. How could it not be? Charles was still in love with someone else, and Diana, young innocent Diana, slowly figured it out. The fights were legendary. Diana once threw her engagement ring at Charles during an argument about Camilla. "She's always there," Diana screamed. "In your head, in your heart, between us in our bed." Charles couldn't deny it. How do you argue with the truth? For years, Charles and Camilla maintained their connection in secret. Phone calls, letters, stolen moments, the famous Tampon-gate scandal? That was just the tip of the iceberg. These two were conducting one of the most passionate long-distance relationships in history, all while the whole world watched Charles pretend to be happily married. "I never stopped loving her," Charles admitted years later. "Not for a single day." By the 1990s, the facade was crumbling. Diana was giving bombshell interviews. The press was circling like sharks. The monarchy was in crisis. Scene: Private meeting between Charles and his mother, 1995. "This has to end," the Queen said firmly. "You're right," Charles replied. "It does." But he wasn't talking about ending things with Camilla. He was talking about ending the lie. Diana's death in 1997 changed everything. Suddenly, the woman who had stood between Charles and his happiness was gone, but so was any chance of a quick resolution. The public hated Camilla. She was the other woman, the villain in the fairy tale. But Charles Charles was done playing by other people's rules. Slowly, carefully, he began rehabilitating Camilla's image, public appearances, charity work, showing the world who she really was, not a homewrecker, but a woman who had loved the same man for over 30 years. April 9, 2005, Windsor Guildhall. Charles, 56 years old, finally married the woman he should have married 32 years earlier. It wasn't the wedding of the century. No carriages, no cathedral, no fairy tale dress, just two people who had waited half their lives to be together. "Do you take Camilla?" the registrar began. "I do," Charles said, and for the first time in decades he meant it completely. Here's what will blow your mind. If Charles had been allowed to marry Camilla in 1973, Diana would still be alive today. Think about it. No forced marriage, no bitter divorce, no paparazzi chase through a Paris tunnel. 3 lives could have been completely different. The monarchy could have avoided its biggest scandal. The world could have had a completely different royal story. All because a mother told her son he couldn't marry for love. Today, Camilla is queen consort. The woman the palace once deemed unsuitable now holds one of the most powerful positions in the British establishment. Charles got his happy ending, but it took him 50 years and cost him everything: his first marriage, his relationship with his children, his reputation, and ultimately Diana's life. The real question isn't whether Charles should have fought harder for Camilla in the beginning. The real question is, what if the most powerful family in Britain had chosen love over image, happiness over duty, truth over tradition? Would we be living in a completely different world today? Final pause. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about getting the girl. They're about what happens when you don't, and what you're willing to sacrifice to make it right. What do you think? Should Charles have defied his family from the beginning? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold royal stories that will change how you see the crown forever.